Hey everybody, this is Mrs. Costello again. I'm going to do day 2 video, and today we're doing some graphing absolute value functions. So the first part asks which system of equations could a student use to write your quadratic function in standard form for the parabola passing through the points. Now we haven't actually, I don't think we've done any of these. I could be wrong, but I'm not totally sure if we've done any of these. The way I set it up is I look at the points, and every single point has an x and a y, right? X, y, x, y, x, y. So what I check for first is which equation has all of the y's where the y's should be, which is on the other side of the equal sign by themselves. A does not, because it has a bunch of y's right there. So we're going to get rid of that one. B does, so we're good. We're going to keep B. C also does, so we're going to keep C. And we're going to eliminate D because it has a bunch of y's right there. Awesome. So the next part are the x's. Now usually in standard form, right, you have like x squared plus x plus some number. So we're going to kind of take that to like heart with our x's. So on our first one with 1, we should have 1, because 1 squared is 1, plus, because usually you have a, so like 1a plus 1b plus something. And I think if you look at B and C, C has 2a right there, and you shouldn't have that. You should always have it squared. Now you can also check the rest of them, because yes, it should be B, but you can check the rest of yours. So your other x is 3, so you should have 3 squared times a plus 3b, and that's what you have right here. You have 9a, so that works. And then same thing with your other ones. On number 2, you could do number 2 on your own. You know how to find the vertex of y equals 7x squared plus 4x, so I'm going to let you do that. So go ahead and pause your video now and do number 2. So hopefully you got number 2. I wrote my vertex right here. Negative 2 over 7 and 4 over 7. My work's on the side, so if you want to pause the video and check my work versus your work, you totally can. Now today we're graphing absolute value functions, and we did a little bit of this in our Algebra 1 review, but it's also kind of good to review it again. So we want to evaluate some absolute value expressions first, just to remind ourselves like what exactly absolute value means. So if I have 4 minus 8, 4 minus 8 is negative 4. So I have the absolute value of negative 4, which means how far away is negative 4 from 0? And it's 4 spots, okay? You always have a positive number for your absolute value for your distance. Same thing with number 2. Number 2 has a 2 on the outside though, and we kind of treat this like parentheses. So we're gonna do the inside first. So negative 6 minus 12 is negative 18. So I have the absolute value of negative 18, which is positive 18. So 2 times positive 18, which is 36. Number 3, I'm going to erase some of the work from above. Number 3, I have a negative sign on the outside, which is okay. It just makes it negative when you're done. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. So I have negative absolute value of negative 3. Well, the absolute value of negative 3 is just 3. So negative 3 would be my answer on that one, because you have to put that negative back on the outside like that. So absolute value graphs. Okay. So let's look at this part. The general parent function for absolute value is y equals a absolute value of x minus h plus k. Now this is important because your a is kind of like your slope, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Then your h and your k is what makes your vertex. So where it says vertex, I'm going to draw h comma k. The vertex is the center or the starting point. So the center of the V, you always have a V shape, which you see like over here in this graph, right? That's a V shape, okay? Now, if you also look at that graph, it tells you what H does to it. So H translates your graph right or left. Now, H is always kind of the opposite of what you think. So like if I had a +1 in here where H is, you actually wouldn't go towards the positives one, you would actually go towards the negatives, which I know is kind of confusing, but we'll get used to it. K translates your graph up or down. Now this one is just straightforward. If it says +1, you move it up. If it says -1, you move it down. Now A is what I call the slope of the graph. Your teacher might have a different way of talking about it, but you basically do it on both sides to make that V shape. So we're going to do some graphing, okay? I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3 with you, and then you're going to do, some other ones by yourself. So number 1, it's already in HK form, so this is my H, this is my K. Now this just moves it over, so remember your H is your opposite, so I write it down as a vertex. So you always change your H, so opposite of +4 is -4. K, it stays the same, keep K, -2. So this is going to be my starting point or my vertex. So -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, -2, boom. My A value should be right here. There is no number in the front, which means my A value is 1. So I would go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. And to make sure I get that V shape, I also need to do the same on the other side. I just need to go left 1. So see how I made a little V shape? That's my absolute value. Same thing on number 2. On number 2, my vertex, usually the X part or the H part is in here with the X, but there's nothing in there with X. So when there's nothing in there with X, you would start it with a 0 for your X part or your H part. Then -5 for the Y. So this is my vertex. This is my HK. So I'd start at 0, go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then my A value is going to be 2 because there's a 2 in the front. So again, I think of this as slope. So I'm going to go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. Oops, I think I went up 3. I did. Up 2 over 1. There we go. Now I need to make that V shape, so I'm going to go back to my vertex and go up 2 over 1 again to the other side. So then there's my V shape. Yay. Okay, last one I'm going to do with you, and then you're going to do some graphs. Okay. So for my vertex, right, change the H, change the inside. So it says -5. You're actually going to start at +5. Keep the K, so I'm going to start at 2. So 5, 2 is my vertex. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Up 2. Perfect. Okay, my A value is negative. So that means it's like -1 over 1. So I'm going to go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1 a couple of times. Then I'm going to go back to the vertex and do the exact same thing to make that V shape. Got to make the V shape. There you go. So we did one where I was kind of missing, part of my vertex. I did one where my graph flipped over. So I really think you guys could do a couple by yourself. So why don't you go ahead and pause your video now and do number 4 and number 5. When you unpause your video, you're going to see my work. So pause your video now. Here's my graph on number 4. Your vertex, you should have changed that +3 to a -3. And then there is no plus K, so 0 would be the Y part of your vertex. And then my A value was 2, so I did go up 2 over 1 on all the points. Here's my work on number 5. My vertex, you should have changed that -2 to be a +2, and then -3 stayed the same. Now I did change my slope, -0.5. I did make it a fraction. A is -1/2. because I know how to graph like a 1/2 slope. I don't really know what to do with a 0.5. So I changed it to a fraction, and that made it a lot nicer. 6 and 7 are just kind of making sure you understand like the HK form or like your parent function form. So on number 6, I think it'd probably be a really good idea to write down your parent function, y equals a absolute value of x minus h plus k. And then now we're going to read and see what's important. So write the equation that is translated left 7, okay, and down 4, okay. Left 7. So left 7, I usually think of minus 7, but we have to do the opposite. So instead of minus 7, I know it's going to be plus 7 on the h, okay. So y equals, I don't really know what my a value is, but I'm going to put x plus 7 for sure because that moves it left. Down 4, well, that's the k part. And remember, k stays the same. So if I want to go down 4, it needs to say minus 4. Now, it didn't say anything about your a value, so you can just assume like your a value is just 1. So that would be your answer. That would be your equation. Now, number 7, you start with an equation. You are given y equals x plus 1 minus 4. So I'm going to write that down. Okay. And then there's all these changes that are going to happen. So if the graph was vertically stretched, so stretched by a factor of 5, that's your a value. So maybe off to the side, write a equals 5. Okay. Then we're going to go down 4. So if I go down 4, I know that affects the k, which is right here. So I'm going to do minus 4 to that 4. And write 3 units. So write 3, I know that that affects this guy right here. And I'm not going to add because remember it's opposite. So instead of going, you know, towards the bigger numbers, we don't actually add them. We actually are going to subtract them. So y equals, I do have to put my a value in. So I'm going to write 5 absolute value of x minus 2 because 1 minus 3 is negative 2. And then negative 4 makes negative 8. So that's my final equation. Okay. All right, that's all I got for day 2. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask your teacher, or you can ask me if you have me in class. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day.